And welcome back to WCCF Tech, guys. It's me, Keith, again, and today we're going to take a look at the new case from Cooler Master, the MasterBox 5. Now, the MasterBox 5 has been built on somewhat of the same stylings as the Master Case 5. However, it incorporates some things that we're starting to see become more prevalent, such as the lack of optical bay drives. There's no 5 1/4 inch bay in the front of this case. There's a nice power supply shroud over the power supply. And, well, interestingly enough, this one actually doesn't have any fan holes in the top. But what's interesting about the MasterBox 5 is it comes in at a substantially lower price than its big brethren, the Master Case 5. It comes in, especially this white model with the translucent front panel and the clear side window, come in at a price point of $70 US, coming in nearly half the price of the fully loaded Master Case 5 Pro. But what do you get for $70 with this? Okay, well, let's take a look at it. We're going to start with the top. Now, starting along the top, like I mentioned, there are no cutouts for a radiator. There's no radiator support. There's no fan support on the top. It's a nice, clean top. So what you get by doing something like that with a case like this, you get a much lower profile. See how much lower it is than the Master Case 5? Now, the Master Case 5 may seem like that it's artificially raised in height, but it's not a whole lot taller than any other normal mid-tower that both of these cases fall in the category of. But moving down the front of the top of the case, you see we have USB 3.0 slots, power reset switches, as well as a microphone and headphone input jack. Now, I do like the fact that these USB 3.0 slots are black and not the bright blue. That does help with the aesthetic of the case. Now, let's move down and look at the front of the case itself. So the front of the case, like I mentioned, is a translucent finish, meaning that it's not transparent, but if you have fans mounted behind it that are LED lit, they will glow through the front, which is kind of a really neat effect. I hooked up a couple just to see how it looked, even though I didn't get any shots of it. It present a really nice muted glow that is very much different than what you normally get with a case. Now, the front panel is removable, and we're going to go ahead and pull it off and talk about what's behind it. So it's easy to remove. You just pull on the bottom, and it comes right off. So this is the front panel. It's just a piece of plastic here with some clips. Now, it's really important to note while we've got it off here that it uses these slots down the side for cooling to bring the air in. They're plenty wide enough to let plenty of air in. So if you fill the front up with fans, you're still going to get some good airflow. But what you're not going to get is dust filter. And that is a bit unfortunate in my opinion, because I keep a can of air real close and I love having a dust filter on the front of my case. It does come with two 120mm fans. Go ahead and point that out. There's one in the rear as well as one that comes down in the bottom and the front. Now, it does have room for up to 3 120mm fans or a 360mm rad in the front, or a 280mm rad or a 240mm rad, and the 240 can be adjustable either in the topmost orientation or the bottommost orientation. Now, that's interesting because, again, like we mentioned, there's nowhere to put it on the top, so it's going to be on the front as an intake, which I think we've all seen in the past from other reviewers as well as demonstrations, that it doesn't affect the internal temperatures that much. And the good thing about this case is it straight out the back. There's plenty of ventilation on the back as well as the rear exhaust fan. Not having any fans on the top allows for a linear air path. It goes front to back and straight out. Now that we've got that out of the way, we're talking about airflow and the internals of the case. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside. Now, the inside of the case does support anywhere from a mini ITX all the way up to an extended ATX. Now, that's something that not even the Master Case 5 Pro natively supports. You can fit an eATX motherboard in that case, but it doesn't have the mounts for it the way that this case does. And because of that, they forewent the rubber grommets that you would normally get for your cable routing and went for these square cutouts, which some people may look at and go, well, would they do that? Well, if you've got an extended ATX motherboard, as if you look at anybody that's installed one in a Master Case 5, you'll see that you cover up those rubber grommets and making them useless. So what they did here was they gave you the ability to move left or right of this centerpiece here, and if you're in a standard ATX, you use the holes on the left. If you're on an eATX, you use the holes on the right. Everybody wins. Now the catch is, if you're not using an eATX and you're using a standard ATX, you now have room to mount a reservoir for a water cooling solution. Say you wanted to use the 360mm radiator in the front of the case. Interestingly enough, all of the cutouts that are along those areas are for a purpose. There is an SSD cage that you can move up and down. You can order more from Cooler Master if you needed more, but it comes with one, and it's movable from the top to the bottom, as well as the back side of the motherboard case, and there's even an additional place for a 2.5mm or an SSD. Now, it does have a two 3.5-inch drive bay caddy on the bottom that are easily removable, and with a simple thumb screw you can relocate that in one of 3 positions along the bottom, or actually move it vertically up and down that path just like you would with the SSD. So if you wanted to arrange the fans and the airflow in whatever manner you needed it for whatever reason, you have that flexibility, and that's really nice. Now, moving along the bottom of the back, we do have a power supply shroud cover, and that's something that's kind of growing in popularity, and I'm quite the fan of that because it allows you to be less concerned about what your power supply looks like and more about the quality of it. You don't have to worry about whether it matches your build or not. It's you get the power supply you want, that's the best one for what you're using it. Put it in there, put the cover over it, and you're done. And this cover, unlike a lot of them, this one is plastic, but it's removable, so you don't have to go in from the back of the case like you do with other ones. You just remove the one thumb screw, it slides, pops right out, easy peasy. Throw in your power supply, cover it all back up when you're done. Now, because it doesn't have rubber grommets, the bottom area down there is wide open. You would think, well, why would you want it wide open? Well, you just push your cables through easily enough, and then you go around the back side of the internal of the case, and that's where this thing really impressed me. There is so much room behind this motherboard tray. There's even room enough to squeeze in a 120mm fan if you want to. Now, the size of it, it's more the depth. It's 25mm throughout, so it's plenty of space to route your cables however you want them and make cable management as clean as possible, especially when a case that doesn't even have rubber grommets. We were able to get an extremely clean cable management job done. The rear of the case is quite plain. It's just your fan cutout, your I/O shield, as well as your PCI Express slots. Now, something cool about these PCI Express slots is once you remove them, they don't have the little cross piece, so you can actually open it completely up by removing all of the PCI Express slots and have it wide open right there. So there's a lot of exhaust area. So if you got a lot of fans in the front and you need more air to be able to escape the back of the case, you can remove that and remove any restriction. The only complaint I have with those is they use the standard case screws. They don't use thumbs, so that area is not toolless. So you'll need a screwdriver to change out your video cards or whatever. But the case does have plenty of room to support, like again, up to an eATX case as well as a multi-GPU solution. So in all, a $70 case that provides a lot of flexibility that you normally wouldn't find in this price range, as well as the ability to make a case look a whole lot better than it does. I mean, sitting right here next to my Master Case 5, it doesn't look a whole lot different. Yeah, the top is a little, the top is obviously different, but the aesthetic of the case is quite similar. So Cooler Master, in my opinion, did a good job with this case, bringing a beautiful budget case to market that would allow more people to build a much better looking system, and it gives more options in that price range. So if you guys found this video interesting or informative and you're interested in this case, or if there's something I didn't answer in the video that you would like for me to, drop a comment down below. Feel free to like and subscribe to the video. And if you enjoyed this type of video, let me know. It was definitely something we can do more of in the future. And we'll catch you all in the next one.